Welcome back to AI Splainer, where we use AI to break down the world's most complex stories. Today, we're diving into the intense, fiery protests that have been rocking Iran, pushing the entire nation to a critical crossroads. Okay, let's get into it.
Death to the dictator. Just listen to that. This is the chant that's echoing all across Iran. As videos manage to trickle out past a government blackout, it's the raw, unfiltered sound of defiance that we're hearing, coming straight from the streets.
And the stakes here? Well, they could not be higher. According to just one official in Tehran, this number, around 2,000, is the approximate death toll from the government's crackdown so far. I mean, just think about that. It's a staggering figure that tells you just how brutal this response has been.
So let's try to get a sense of the sheer scale of this movement. This isn't just one protest in one city. No, what we're talking about is a nationwide eruption of anger.
I mean, the sheer scale is just incredible. We're seeing protests pop up in over 116 different locations spread across 22 provinces. This is everywhere. And people aren't just marching. They're setting government buildings ablaze. They're burning images of the supreme leader. And sources are reporting as many as 10,000 arrests. This is a massive, decentralized wave of pure dissent.
So the big question is, how did we get here? Right? What was the spark that ignited this sudden and really violent explosion of protest all across the country?
Well, to understand what's happening now, you kind of have to look back at the last year. Through 2024 and 2025, Iran's regional power network, what they call the Axis of Resistance, took some major hits as its allies like Hezbollah and Hamas suffered huge setbacks. Then, in late 2025, the economy just fell off a cliff. The currency, the rial, crashed. This caused massive inflation, and suddenly food prices went through the roof. That was the spark. On December 28th, shopkeepers in Tehran hit the streets, and just a few days later, the protests turned deadly.
And this right here is the absolute key to understanding this moment. The demonstrations, they started out about economic survival. You know, the price of bread. But that anger morphed, and it morphed fast into something way bigger. A fundamental challenge to the Islamic Republic itself.
So, facing this existential challenge, the regime has responded with an absolute iron fist. They're using a strategy that combines brutal physical violence with digital suppression.
Now, to understand the crackdown, you need to know who's enforcing it. At first, you have the local police, the LEC. But as the protests grew, the regime deployed the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Look, this is not your regular police force. These guys are a powerful, parallel military, and their main job is to protect the regime. Bringing them in? That signals a very, very serious escalation.
And the human cost of that escalation is just horrifying. This quote from Masa, a young journalist in the city of Mashhad, it paints such a chilling picture. The streets are full of blood. I fear I am about to witness a sea of dead people. It's a voice coming directly from the fear on the ground.
With the whole world watching this brutality unfold, the regime unleashed its next weapon, one that's designed to work in silence and in shadow.
1%. Let that number sink in for a second. That's what nationwide internet connectivity was choked down to. They essentially hit the kill switch, plunging the entire country into an almost total digital darkness.
And the strategy here is really twofold. First, you make it incredibly difficult for protesters to talk to each other, to organize. And second, and this is just as important, you try to hide what you're doing from the eyes of the world. This is a playbook the regime has used before, most notoriously back in 2019, when they killed an estimated 1,500 people under the cover of a very similar blackout.
But here's the thing, despite the blackout, the world is watching. You can't hide something this big. And international pressure is seriously mounting, which is creating this really tense global standoff.
The United States, for example, issued a really sharp warning. The president said that if Iran kills peaceful protesters, the U.S. will come to their rescue. It was a message that, according to reports, really seemed to embolden the protesters on the ground.
And the European Union has also taken a very hard line. The president of the European Parliament announced they were banning Iranian diplomats, basically declaring that their house would not help legitimize a regime that, in her words, sustains itself through torture and repression.
And this just perfectly illustrates the diplomatic tug-of-war that's going on. On one side, you have the UK government demanding an immediate end to the violence. And on the other side, Iran's foreign minister just fires right back with a blunt warning to stay out of its internal affairs.
So all of this, the protests, the crackdown, the international pressure, it all leads to the most critical question of all: what happens next? The future of Iran is literally hanging in the balance, and the outcome is anything but certain.
Right now, it feels like there are two completely different stories being told. The regime's public story is that everything is under total control, but the reports we're getting from the ground suggest their security forces are actually stretched dangerously thin, facing what some analysts are calling bandwidth constraints. The government labels dissidents as terrorist agents, but other sources describe the protests as an avalanche. And while the regime insists it will not back down, calls for nationwide strikes from figures like the exiled Prince Reza Pahlavi seem to be gaining some real traction.
And so that leaves us with this final, incredibly powerful question. Has this movement crossed some kind of threshold? Are we witnessing a series of protests, or are we watching the beginning of a full-blown revolution? Right now, the honest answer is, nobody knows for sure.
But we really want to hear from you. What do you think this is? A protest or a revolution? Let us know what you think in the comments section below.
And hey, if you found this explainer helpful in understanding what's going on, please do us a huge favor and hit that like button and share it. It really helps other people find and understand this important story.
And of course, for more simple explainers on the world's biggest stories, make sure you subscribe to AI Explainer. Thanks so much for watching.